Hey everybody, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am Bill, the company's expert, and I just want to give a shout out to Mimi Lynch, who is the latest member of my channel. Thank you, Mimi, for that show of support. That's awesome. Membership has its privileges. This is the show where we talk about side hustles and we talk about all forms of entrepreneurship and how entrepreneurship can be a career option for a lot more people than you might think. This totally relates to the main, what do you call it? Niche of my channel, which is job search and careers. Entrepreneurship is a valid career, and it's never been a better time for people to investigate entrepreneurship than right now. With the advent of not just the internet and not just all the wonderful things we have on there, but even new developments like ChatGPT and AI and all the stuff that keeps happening makes it super easy right now and cost effective to be able to start up your own business. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, this is a Q&A. So if you have any questions or you are struggling with any challenges right now, please get in the chat, let me know, and let's talk about it. I basically go off questions from you guys, what you are wanting to know, what you're looking for help with, things like this. So get in the chat, let me know. Somebody made a comment the other day. I had put out a question in the form of a poll on my YouTube channel, and I do this every day. And somebody had said something to the effect of, you know, entrepreneurship, it requires capital. It requires money down. That's how you have to do it. So that's a limiting factor for a lot of people. And that's just not true. I mean, yes, of course, there are certain types of businesses that in order to start them, they're very capital intensive. You have to buy a lot of expensive things like equipment and things like this. However, for the vast majority of businesses that are possible for an individual to start up, there are ways around that. And that's one of the things we can talk about here because I find that topic very fascinating. In the chat, KZ259 is here. Says, hey, Bill. Hey, KZ, or if you're in the States, KZ259. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions, let me know. But yes, that is a huge topic. And I think one that there's a lot of misinformation about. You know, people think that in order to have my own business, in order to have my own company that generates revenue, I have to spend a lot of money first. That's just not true. It's just that simple. And Limaz is here. Hello to Limaz. Says, how can I become a networker and make money off it? A networker. Now, do you mean the type of person that does a lot of networking type social activities? Is that what you're talking about? Because the answer to that is there's almost an infinite amount of things that can come out of networking, depending on who you talk to, okay? You know, if you have the ability, like a really amazing ability, okay, is to be able to just approach an individual or a company, like an organization, from the outside, okay? You don't know anybody in that group, okay? You don't have any personal connections. Nobody's a friend of a friend, okay? They're all new. And the ability to go and make contact with them, the first obvious thing would be to get information from them. Okay, so if you have questions, get answers. Be able to get somebody to answer your questions fully and completely. Okay, that would be the first direct benefit to be able to network. The next benefit are opportunities. Okay. So if you can do something, or you'd like to do something, or you'd like to play some kind of role, the next thing would be for them to consider you for that. Okay, so that's sort of the next step, right? And you can look at networking in that term. It's like a sort of two-tiered system. Number one, to be able to make contact with somebody and get information. Number two, to go beyond that, just getting information and have them want to partner with you in some way. Okay. Now, I've talked extensively on my channel about informational interviews as like a sort of good way in for a lot of people. Okay. Being able to set them up, being able to conduct them, with favorable results. Okay. That will get you into networking. But I mean, there's a lot of things there. Like, for example, let's say that you have some skills. Okay. You can offer certain services. You know how to do something. Now, if you go to, what was I looking up here? I was looking up something. What is it? Like if you say, how can I make an extra $2,000 a month? Where was it? Freelancing, just as a start here. Okay, let's say you have some kind of skill that you can do. You can sit at a computer and you can do something of value. Let's say you can write content, or let's say you can, edit videos or organize something. Like what's the thing they always talk about? Virtual assistant. You can tutor people. You can create copy, like you can do copywriting, like creating marketing materials. You can do video or photo editing, all this kind of stuff. Let's say there's stuff you can do that would be of value to somebody. Well, through networking, you can connect with people that would possibly want to pay you for your services. Okay. So that would be the obvious kind of connection there. Okay, so that's one way to make money with it, right? If you sell a product, if you can create a product. Let's say you're an artist of some kind, or like artisan, you can create some type of product. Okay, maybe you create musical instruments, maybe you create ornaments. I mean, I don't know, whatever. Something, or maybe you have a 3D printer and you can create industrial, technical type parts or products, right? And you would like to sell those, or you would like to partner with a company that can add it to their offering and sell them. Well, obviously, if you connect with those companies and they know you and they like you and they don't see any issues in doing business with you, there may be opportunities for a partnership right there. I add my piece to your product and you sell it all as a bundle and you pay me a fee. Whatever. Right? So, I mean, the sky's the limit. Like networking is I would almost consider it an essential skill. I think it should be taught in schools, how to actually do this properly. And not just the basics of like, how to talk to somebody. Hi, how are you? My name is this. But like be able to do it in a way that, opens up opportunities for everybody. So hopefully that makes sense, Limaz. That's a great question. Lima says, a type of worker that finds people for people who need people. Okay, a type of worker that finds people for people who need people. Do I need a lot of contacts from the start? Have some kind of a proof of my skill if I want to work for some company or something else? Not sure if I put it correctly. So you're wondering about how to go about doing it? Well, if it were me, my default approach to all that kind of stuff would be some form of informational interview. Okay. Now you can get that through different means. For example, I've talked about one way where you reach out to people on LinkedIn. Another way is you go to an event, like a trade show, some kind of industry event. I've been to CEO conferences, I've been to business conferences and things, and you find yourself like at a table, a round table. There may be an auditorium or something, and there might be a lot of tables. And, there's, 10 or 12 people to one of these tables. Whoops, I just smacked my mic. And, you find yourself making conversation with these people, right? So you talk about, what you have, what you can do. Basically, you ask them all about their operation. And if there's something that you can assist with, there may be an opportunity there. Okay. And the first step is for you guys to get along. Okay. If you talk to somebody and let's say they are a potential partner of yours. Okay. So what you were describing a second ago, a worker that finds people for people who need people. So, I mean, the first thing that leaps to mind when you say that is like some form of HR, independent HR company, right? I provide like a staffing company. I provide people for you. You need people, you need temporary people, you need temporary workers, you need permanent workers, whatever. I provide them. Come to me, I'll hook you up, right? So let's say, hypothetically, you offered that kind of service. you sit at a table at an industry event, you find yourself talking to people, you ask them all about themselves and their operation and, their opinions and their philosophies on different things. And people love to talk about that, by the way. And they say, oh, well, yeah, we do this, we do that, we have this problem. We can't find people when we need it. That's the problem. It makes it very bulky to do this. And you say, oh, well, I might be able to help you with that, actually. We actually provide that service. No pressure. If ever you're looking, we could maybe help you with that because we do this, and this that eliminates the need for some of these things that are issues for you. So, stuff like that, right? And it just goes from there. Okay. If you get along with the person, that's kind of a necessary first step. If you have a conversation with them and it's awkward and it just doesn't really click, that's like signaling that that's how your working relationship is going to go if you decide to have dealings. Okay, so that's why it's very important to get along with people and have it really be easy and fun to talk to them and this sort of thing, right? And that's a skill like any other. It really isn't rocket science. For a lot of extroverts, this is a non-issue. This just comes naturally. For introverts, this can be very challenging, or at least it can seem very challenging. It really isn't, but it can seem very challenging because people just don't naturally, intuitively know how to do this. But yeah, that's the beginning of a lot of things. So if you are somebody in business that you're doing the function of an executive, you're a higher level person in an organization, that means you are the decision maker. You decide what to do, including business opportunities, how to make sales. Okay, networking is going to be a huge part of it. All introverts out there need to assume some of the traits of extroverts in order to drum up business, essentially. Okay, to create opportunities, to explore partnerships and things like this. Okay, that's just part of the role. And it is possible to do. You can do it on your own terms. That's a great thing. You don't have to be pushed into weird situations over which you have no control. You can, to a large degree, control how you do it. And one great thing is that for those who don't know, if you've never done this kind of thing, people that tend, like executive types, decision makers that are doing this, they tend to be very friendly and easy to talk to. It tends to be a good experience talking to them because they have generally advanced social skills and they're very charismatic. They're very likable. It's hard to be a particularly good CEO or business owner if you're like so off-putting that everyone you talk to does not want to talk to you ever again. You know what I'm saying? Generally, you don't see a lot of that. It has been known, especially with some self-made people, but generally we don't see that. Okay, KZ259 says, Bill, I do have a question and hoping for some guidance on the topic when you get a chance. In the meantime, I also want to shift my current 9-to-5 to project management under IT. Do you think it's worth dividing my time and energy to get into project management, or go all into learning my side gig in hopes to turn it into something much bigger down the road? Well, sorry, KZ259. It's very hard to say because the devil's in the details. Like, should I do this thing or this thing? I mean, they both could work or they both could be a waste of time depending on the details. What I would say is that if there are no immediate issues, like you don't have immediate financial concerns and that's not like a huge factor, obviously the thing that you enjoy the most is going to be probably the thing to go with. The thing that you want to do long term, regardless of your current skill set in it, that would probably be the thing to go with. Okay. Project management under IT. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do it. I've never worked in project management in IT. I've been a project manager, like a project leader before. And it's like project management, really what it is. It's like, you can either manage people, or you could manage money, or you could manage assets, or you could manage projects, right? So sometimes project management is a fancy way of saying a manager who doesn't manage people, right? You don't manage people, you manage projects, right? And sometimes it can be a little bit of a euphemism for, you're not good with people, but you're a technical type person, so we put you in charge of this project. Maybe the project is like a product, you work in IT. I mean, I don't know if you work on the admin side, systems admin, or you work on the software development side, but if you're in software development and you're a project manager, you might be responsible for an update or something like that to a software product, So you're sort of dealing with people indirectly, but really you're managing a product, right? Or you might have a cross-functional team, or you might not have any people directly under your supervision. You might have sort of people that report to you temporarily for the duration of that project, but it's, they don't report to you permanently, right? It's like a dotted line reporting arrangement. So it's interesting that you're asking me A, about networking, which is sort of a social thing, and then B, about project management. And what I sense from this is that maybe, you're a technical type person, detail oriented, probably introvert, probably, who's wanting to get into that sort of networking world and work more with people and generate business. Now, in order to be thrown into that, I don't know if your particular flavor of project management, like where you're working or where you're doing this, the industry and the environment and the company that you're in, I'm not sure that's the best way to get those skills. Okay. That seems like you're kind of almost the furthest away from it. Okay. I'm not sure if that's true. This is pure guesswork on my part. Okay, you also say, do you think it's worth dividing my time and energy, project, or going all in? Wait, a lot of my messages didn't show up. Oh, okay. Well, I got like 5 of them. Were there more? Anyway, I'm really going to have to take a look at, because a lot of people are saying their messages don't show up. I'm going to have to look into that. I don't know what YouTube is doing. Limaz says, what would you do if you were 20 again, finished school, concluded that last 12 years of education, didn't contribute anything to your future goals, plus you need experience to work where you want to work? So my experience was that I was, I guess, fortunate. In hindsight, I guess I was fortunate in a way, because I got a degree in engineering, which at the time was valued. So people would hire you on the basis that you had a degree in engineering. Now, I was a detail-oriented, technical type of person. I did not have very good social skills. I was and am an introvert. And so I didn't sell myself on my interviewing ability, put it that way. I had minimal public speaking skills. I had like no public speaking skills. I was not good in interviews. I don't know that many people, certainly a lot of introverts at that age are really not good at interviews. It just wasn't a part of your life, So I was fortunate in that I had an educational qualification that some people would hire you because you had that, basically. Like, you still had to go through an interview, and I did not pass a lot of interviews, but I got something relatively quickly. I remember within a few months. Now, so if you're saying like, you finished school and the last 12 years of education didn't contribute anything to your future or your future goals, that's like a big handicap. I mean, if you've taken 12 years of education that don't help you, they just don't help you to get a job or do what you want to do. My problem, what you're asking, like if you were 20 again, my problem when I was 20 is that I didn't know what I wanted to do because I didn't know what was out there. I didn't know what options were out there, like practical, I mean, I think my career goals were limited to, I want to do absolutely no work, but do fun things all day long and then yet make $1 million. I think that was the extent of my career plan. So that was my situation. Now, what I would have done differently is I would have learned about the stuff I talk about on this YouTube channel 10 years before I actually did. Okay. So I'd learn them at 25 instead of 35. Okay. I would learn about networking and things that you guys have asked me about so far in this stream. I'd learn that stuff at age 25 or earlier rather than learning it all in my 30s. Okay. My other problem was that I went into an industry that I went into the railroad and transportation, and very tough culture filled with a lot of people that do not network, that do not place a lot of value on social skills. So you also got a very distorted view of the world and what skills you need to succeed in it. That was my issue. I sort of branched out from that to aerospace and stuff like that. And then you started to get more of a view of the real world. But the thing is, networking, as I've said about 1 billion times on this channel, networking is a great shortcut. It overcomes many, many disadvantages you might be up against. Okay. For example, you just said the last 12 years of your education didn't contribute anything to your future goals. Okay. Well, look, let's pretend for the sake of argument that over a period of, say, 6 months, you really worked on yourself, your networking skills, your conversational skills, your personal charisma, and things like that. Okay. You learned a bit about human nature. You learned a bit about social interaction, maybe even a little bit of public speaking. Okay. You worked on that. Then you went out and, you did some kind of networking activity. Either you went to events and you connected with people, or you do the thing that I always talk about, which is reaching out to them on LinkedIn and getting informational interviews. Let's say you did that. One informational interview, okay, can overturn this whole problem you're talking about here, about having 12 years of education that didn't contribute anything. Let's say, you got 12 years of education in one area, but they don't help you because you want to do this thing over here, right? Well, you have one informational interview with a decision maker that has a bit of authority and power in an industry over here, okay? Right over here where you want to be. And, okay, you don't have some of the technical qualifications to work there that usually you need, but they see that you're awesome. They like you. They see that you're passionate about this stuff right over here. You know a bit about it. You're great to deal with. You're professional. You're resourceful. You have some initiative. These are the types of people they're looking for over there. So one way or another, maybe it could be they offer you a job, or they offer you some kind of partnership, or it could be, you go in and you help them with a freelance type thing or a volunteer type thing, or, some kind of arrangement where you interact with them, some kind of business arrangement, and that gets your foot in the door. And then after that, your education doesn't really matter too much, depending what it is we're talking about here. Okay. So that's what I would have done differently. I would have done that. I've learned that stuff 10 years before I actually did. I learned it in my 20s. I'd be practicing it, and I would not be fooled by things that people were telling you at the time. For example, one of the things people tell you is, oh, just put in your time and, you will eventually get promoted, or, whatever great thing will happen for you. Wrong. In my experience, that's not how it's worked. I worked in a lot of seniority based businesses and industries, and it's no, people just got screwed. The timing was bad. Coincidentally, every situation I was in, the timing was bad. They hired a ton of people in the 70s. Those people signed on thinking, oh, I'm the junior person now, but they're hiring tons of people. In 6 months, I won't be the most junior person anymore. I'll be in the middle, and then I'll be at the top. Nope, they stopped hiring, and then they didn't hire anyone for 20 years. So you're the junior person for 20 years. Next thing you know, you're middle age and you're still in the same role that you got hired in, you know? So I saw a lot of that, and a lot of these things that people would say, they turned out to be wrong. So I'm glad that I didn't really put too much faith in it. Anyway, this is a weird episode. It's just going off on a tangent, but that's fine. Hopefully that's some kind of answer to your question. Bell gun mess. People had to set their filters to all messages. Okay, yes. Okay, so is it KZ? KZ259? I'm going to attempt to send my messages again so it makes more sense. Right now I work in IT support, and I can see myself doing project management as well as the next immediate step. But long term, I would love to do content creation. Listen, well, okay, I'll read your whole thing first. I understand this will take a few years until I have a solid grip on cooking and learning the ins and outs. Cooking? This part keeps getting cut out. I'm currently teaching myself how to become a better home cook and want to go long term with this. Okay. From IT to home cooking, that's an interesting jump. You know, like, here's the thing. Okay, here's one thing that I'm usually not in the business of giving life advice to people. I remember on my main podcast, main live stream I do, you know, how to get hired, somebody asked me, you know, what's your best life advice you've ever received or something? And I said, and I bit their head off. Okay. So I'm usually not in the business of doing this, but I just want to say, one of the things that I have seen and learned, because someone was asking me, if you were 20 again, what would you do? One of the things I've seen and learned is that you get this, I don't know where it comes from. You get this impression that you need someone's permission to like go and do the thing that you want to do. Right now, you've just, okay, KZ259 or KZ259 is talking about moving from IT to being a home cook. That's interesting. I've never heard of that one before, but it's like, you know, what did you say here? You said something that's like, I understand this will take a few years and, you know, I have a solid grip on cooking and learning. It's like, if you want to do it, do it. Just start. This is the great thing about being here now, okay? In the internet age, this is where the age where you can publish a book from your house, okay? You could broadcast like a hit TV show from your house, you know? You can just go and do this. If you want to do cooking, go and do cooking. Start. Now, I don't know what your plan is. I don't know how you want to do it. Do you want to teach it? Do you want to cook for other people, like be like a catering company? Do you want to, like you're not teaching it, but maybe you're doing a YouTube channel where you talk all about it? Do you want to use it as a vehicle to get into the restaurant industry? Do you want to use it as a vehicle to get into the food service industry? You know, grocery supply, like wholesalers, distributors, like that. Like, I mean, like, what are we talking? Like, it could go in so many directions. Okay, you could advise people that sell food as to what food to sell, and you could do a value-added service. I mean, there's so many ways you could turn cooking into making money, depending on what your interest is and what your passion is. You could go all these different ways. If you set up a whole bunch of informational interviews with people that sell groceries, they run the local supermarket or mom and pop shop or exotic kind of food or ingredients stores, like, I don't know, players in that industry. You like how I talk with my hands? It's not distracting at all, you know? You don't need anyone's permission to do this. Go out and start learning now, okay? Don't start thinking like, oh, this is some magical time in the future, in a time many years from now when I will start my journey to doing home cooking, right? Go out and start now. If you want to do this, you don't have to put any real money behind it. You don't have to quit your day job to do this, but start. You could even slide into it very easily by doing research online. I don't know if you have if any disposable income, you could like buy good cooking equipment. You could get a camera, you could take pictures of what you do I don't know. You could put that out on social media, start talking, doing posts about food and about, this kind of thing. I mean, I'm not tuned into that world, obviously, as you can tell, but I know that there's like a community around it, like food enthusiasts and people and then outside of that, like the wider population that just wants to find a good place to eat, or they want to try new recipes at home, whatever, or they want to do diet and fitness. That's another thing you can tap into, I suppose. It's a moneymaker, so there's many things you can do. I would explore these. I'd start exploring them. You don't have anyone's permission. You don't have to wait for anything to happen. Just start doing it. It costs nothing except a little bit of your time to get started. Okay. So start learning. Based on what you learn, maybe there's some opportunities, maybe to make money, maybe, things that could develop into something in the future, and just go with it. Okay, sorry, there are parts of my message that just don't come through, and there is a long delay between messages. Bill, I have been in the cooking for years now. So I've started. Okay, well, good. But I mean, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to sell food, or do you want to sell content about food, or do you want to provide services to do with food, like whether it's advice or it's the actual food? Whatever that part is, what I'm saying is that if you've been cooking, ramp it up, take it to the next step. You don't need to spend a lot of money. Anything that requires a ton of money or like really high stakes, I would stay away from until you get like real strong evidence that there's money rolling in. You know what I mean? I would stay away from any like spending a ton of cash on this, but take the next steps, whatever the next step is. I know this is very self-evident, but okay, so my main question was, for my next immediate step, should I stay in IT support or go all into cooking content creation? Okay, well, I would say don't go all in unless you have money coming in. Okay, don't quit your day job with no revenue stream, and then do the cooking thing in the hopes that it will generate a revenue stream. That's not how I would advise people to do things. What I advise you to do is do it on the side as a side hustle, okay? Try to make it like a money-making side hustle on the side so that there's evidence that if you did this full-time, you would be able to generate an income replacement. Then it's at that point that you would consider quitting your day job. Don't quit your day job until you have, certainly money coming in. I would say almost 50%, like as a minimum across the board. I would say 50% of your income replacement. So let's say you make, I don't know, $3,000 a month, whatever. Okay. I think Canadian dollars because I'm in Canada. Whenever people hear dollars, they think US dollars. So I mean, whatever. Let's say it's $3,000 you get from your day job. Until you're making $1,500 a month from the side hustle in cooking, I would not quit your day job. Okay. That's how I would go about it. Like there's some flexibility depending on details, but as a general rule, that's kind of what I would advise. This stuff is not worth betting your entire existence on. You know what I mean? And it's good to take steps when you've gotten evidence that they will work. If money isn't coming in yet, there may be a reason for that. Okay, so let's figure that out, get answers on that before you do anything rash. That's a way that I would recommend proceeding. Yeah, I would divide your time. Okay, now if it's a real slog, like a real grind, and it's not going anywhere fast, that encourages you not to go down the brute force method and just put more hours in, to eke out a little bit more revenue. It forces you to think like, okay, I have to go about this smarter. I have to rethink what I'm doing. It's great that I've come up with this formula that brings in a little money a month, say $500 a month. That's great. But I can't just ramp that up by throwing more hours at it because it's not scalable. If I could find a way to turn this into, instead of $500 a month, I'm doing it part-time, but I'm generating $2,000 a month, then that might make sense. Okay. So you say, okay, I'm providing services for these people. Maybe it's just not enough. Maybe I have to go more upscale. I have to find a way to go more upscale to have a higher grade of client or, customer, whatever, so that I get paid more, so that, this is financially, making sense. Okay. That's how I would think about it. Because the problem is people sometimes they stumble upon something that makes a little bit of money, and it's part-time, and then they quit their day job, and their plan is to just ramp up what they're doing part-time to full-time, and they do it, but the amount of profit you make, the amount of money you make, it goes up linearly or it doesn't go up linearly. You put in twice the amount of time, but only produces 1.5 times the money you're making, something like that. You don't want to be in that situation. You don't want to just throw hours and hours and hours at the problem. Wouldn't it be great to figure out a better formula that allows you to do the same amount of work but make more money? You do it, provide a different thing, right? So that's how I would think about it. Okay, just because you make a little bit of money doesn't necessarily mean that you can do it full-time and it makes sense. Okay, maybe it should just stay as a side hustle if you can't come up with anything better. And it's only worthy to become your only mainline source of income if you can, produce better results. Renee Lee Greco says, thank you for this video. You're welcome, Renee. Thanks for being here. Now, I skipped over, I think it was Limos. Limos had a question. What is a good place to start for networking? Place where you want to work in the future, influential people, someone loyal who can be counted on. Well, if you have, the someone loyal who can be counted on, it doesn't seem like you need to do too much networking with that person. It just seems like you need to have a conversation with them if you want to get anything further out of it. What is a good place to start for networking? To be honest with you, I don't know if I necessarily start the place where you work, because like most things, when we start out doing something for the first time, we're usually bad in the beginning and we improve with time, right? So I would not necessarily make all your mistakes trying to network in a place where your work is your day job, because if it goes poorly or whatever, it's higher stakes. You don't want to put your foot in your mouth or, do some like do a faux pas or something like that with your boss or your boss's boss, or, something that the consequences could potentially come back and have future effects. You don't want to do that, in my opinion. I would recommend starting out in a different place that's kind of compartmentalized, so you go to companies that you don't deal with as part of your day job. Like, for example, KZ259 was talking about moving from IT project management to cooking. So your day job is in IT. Okay, so that's where you work. That's where everybody knows you. You want to say, let's pretend you want to learn how to network. I would start contacting restaurant owners. I would start contacting, other people in the cooking space, whoever those people are, cooking teachers or schools that teach people how to cook. You want to sit down and talk to the dean of some cooking school or something. Like, that's how I would start. So that if you let's pretend that you don't do a very good job of it in the beginning, it's very awkward, and you all you really succeed in doing tangibly is you turn that person off and they don't want to talk to you again. Like let's pretend that's how it goes in the very beginning. It's okay, because you're never going to need to deal with that person ever again, right? So that's the advantage of it. You're compartmentalizing this, and you're just doing it as a little research project on the side that doesn't affect anything. Okay. And then maybe after you do that for 6 months, maybe a year, depending on, what you do, and you really develop those skills and you figure out, okay, this is how I contact people. This is what I say. This is how I behave. I'm getting quite good at it. Then you can do it maybe the place where you work, and, it's a little less risky. That would be my general philosophy going into this. Limaz. That's how I would do it. Now, another option for you, if you have the opportunity to go to some kind of event, okay, where you're in a giant room, some kind of auditorium or convention center or what, and there's like a whole ton of people around you, and there's maybe like a trade show, there's all these little booths and stuff, almost like a job fair. You go there, and every big company has a little booth, and they have a representative of that company in the booth, and you just go around shaking hands and saying a few words to people. Hey, so what's going on here? What's the deal with this company? And then they talk to you. And you say, oh, that's interesting because I have skills in this area. I'd like to go into this. Does that tie in with it? And you practice talking to people. You practice making a good impression, things like this. That might be a good place to start off if you have the opportunity, just to get comfortable talking to other people and having them like you and having them give you information. You see, in that situation, those people their job is to talk to you. Okay, they're there as the representative of the company. So if you come along, maybe there's a crowd of people and you're one of them, their job is to be there and to talk to you and make a good impression, represent the company well. When you start doing informational interviews, that's not really a situation. It's much more voluntary on the part of the other party. If you are requesting a meeting to have a conversation with somebody, say a manager of, some business unit or something, it's much more voluntary. Like they decide whether they want to talk to you. And if they say yes, there's no expectations from that point. There's no obligation for them to commit any time to you or anything like that. It's purely voluntary. So they'll do it if they feel like it, and they'll do it as long as it feels good for them. So the stakes are a little bit higher. Okay. Like the person doesn't have to be there talking to you. In the very beginning, if you go to an industry event, a lot of times, depending on the event, the person is required to be there and they're required to talk to you to a degree. So maybe if you have the opportunity, start out with that, the industry event. Hopefully that makes sense. What do we got here? Mary says, thank you for the advice. I'm glad I joined this call today. Well, I'm glad you're here too, Mary. Thank you for being here. And it's great to get you saying such nice things. I always want to say SDKFZ. It's not SDKFZ. It's KZ259. SDKFZ is like a German half-track that was driven in the Second World War. Okay, so gotta get that name out of my head. KZ259 says, excellent. Thank you for the feedback, Bill. I'm sure I'll have more questions during the rest of the stream. Yeah, like a lot of people, if you're interested in this kind of thing, join groups or communities. If you're interested in cooking, maybe you've already done this, but just in case you haven't, join online communities, that get together around cooking or the type of cooking that you're interested in. And do posts, put your opinions or your contribution out there. Take pictures of stuff, ask questions, give information, and see if you get any kind of response. That leads to things indirectly. Okay. So, maybe there is a community, maybe there isn't. Try and find where that community is. It could be that this is just not popular enough to have its own local community. Maybe the only community that exists is a global community, because maybe there's only one person in a city that would be interested in the type of thing you're interested in. But collectively in the world, there's enough people that you have a group of thousands, right? So that's the community. It's a global community. And maybe there's a place where they all congregate that you could sort of reach a lot of those people. So try and find out where that is, what platform it's on, or, how they're connected, how you communicate with them. That's pretty important. Okay. And then start playing an active role in it. Don't make a nuisance of yourself, but just sort of get your foot in the door and start like contributing and interacting with people, and your learning will start there, and then it will grow. Okay. Like I know that has some kind of fancy new business name. I don't know what the jargon is, but it's like the opposite of traditional entrepreneurship. Traditional entrepreneurship, you would spend money creating a product and you'd put it out there and hope it sells. And then when it does sell, hopefully, you then start to connect with this audience, with this market, this group of potential customers. A lot of the power of the internet, right, is that you can turn that process on its head. You first create the audience. You connect with the audience. You make yourself known to them. You turn them into sort of a community. They all know you, right? You become a reputed person within that community. And then if you then have a product or service that you're trying to sell, you have a ready-made customer base, a ready-made market for it. Okay, so it's like the opposite of traditional entrepreneurship. Also, it can lead to direct job opportunities. Somebody could just offer you a job or offer you some freelance work and say, hey, we need someone to help create menus for this new restaurant. We have a restaurant. I've bought a restaurant that was failing. My plan is to turn it around. I need someone that can help, create a menu that, is cost effective, that is really, really attractive to people. They will come in and they will eat this food. They will want this food, and then they will keep coming back for more. So what would that be? You know what I mean? I'm not in the restaurant business, but it's things like this. The more you're out there, the more you're contributing to stuff and you're showing people what you have, what you can do, and you're interacting, the more traditional opportunities come up like that, as well as you create a audience for your own stuff. So if you were planning to come out with a product, right, those are your customers. If you're looking for a traditional type job, those are potentially your employers. Okay, so it leads to many different things. So this is why I say, don't wait, just start. Okay, start getting out there. KZ259, excellent. Thank you for the feedback, Bill. I'm sure I'll have more questions during the rest of the stream. Yeah, bring them on. I'll be, I have another 12 minutes or so till the hour. But yeah, bring them on. But I'm here. I'm going to be doing a lot of live streams in the next week or two. So we'll be back with this live stream certainly next week at the same time, but also maybe even later in the week. We'll see. Let's see here. Rob says 43 years old with 3 kids, channel marketing specialist. I don't speak English that well to start a YouTube channel. Living paycheck to paycheck. Any advice? Well, the problem is that's so general. It's hard for me. I'm a detail-oriented person. I always have problems with extremely general questions because the only thing I can respond to a very general question is by giving sort of self-evident platitudes that you probably knew already. Things like believe in yourself, things like, get out there. I'm hoping to give you a bit more specific, tailored advice rather than just saying stuff like that. For example, I don't know what your capabilities are, what you're interested in. Are you an extrovert? Are you an introvert? I mean, if you're a channel marketing specialist, I don't know what that means. That's obviously something to do with marketing, but it sounds like a position in a very large corporation. So that leads me to believe that if that's true, you really don't know how to do the entire marketing process yourself, or you don't have a lot of experience doing the entire thing. Now, if you did, you'd be able to really use that to your own advantage. Okay, you'd be able to advertise, you'd be able to promote whatever it is that you want to do for money. If you have a service, you could go freelance and provide services for people, or you could roll those marketing skills into, like a YouTube channel or some kind of creative venture, do an online store, whatever, right? Like an Amazon partner, whatever, right? It is that you want to do. Okay. Like if you understand market research, trying to figure out how do we figure out people's wants, wills, and needs. And then we know how to tailor the marketing message. And then we know how to communicate that message to the audience. And we know where that audience is, and we can find it and define it. Those are very, very powerful skills. You can use those skills alone almost to just become an entrepreneur, to make money yourself, right? And it could be something skilled that you have, or it could be something just really unskilled. Like, for example, I was just looking at this 1 minute before the live stream began. I just typed in side hustle ideas into Google, and, a bunch of stuff came up, and I was about here, and I was saying, how can I make an extra $2,000 a month? Here are some of the best ways to make extra cash. And I was like, should I start off the live stream by reacting to this? That's what I was thinking. But freelancing, online tutorial, delivery, driving, and ride shares. I mean, that's one of the most unskilled things you can get, just driving stuff around. No offense to the people in that business, but just being able to drive a vehicle, your own vehicle. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's not very skilled. That's unskilled. Dog walking and sitting. Once again, I mean, I know there's some quirks with doing that, but generally that's not a super highly skilled area. You don't have to get a PhD to do this, right? So, or photography for that matter. Everybody's got a digital camera in some form, or most people do. What separates the real professionals that can sell this with just casual people that just have a phone, they take pictures. They take pictures of their food or, whatever, right? So even unskilled stuff, with your skills in marketing, you might be able to just make a ton of money doing those, right? You don't need any other skills other than the marketing, really, to start making money. So without knowing anything about you, Rob, I would first investigate those kind of ideas, right? It helps if there's something that you're passionate about, that you want to do, in which case, just build up some inspiration to it, for it. Stick your toe in the water of actually doing it, and start developing the skills. Learn what you can about it. And, even if it takes, say, 2 years, okay? Even if it takes 2 years to really get this thing off the ground, start bringing money in, you'll be glad that you started, because once you get to the point where you're making a bit of money, it's proving to you that you can make money. And then you make more money, and it proves to you, no, I can make more money. And then it gets to the point where you might be able to replace your day job. So you're still going paycheck to paycheck, but the difference is that you're in control. Okay. You don't have to worry about being laid off or anything like that, right? You can do it a little bit more on your own terms. So, you know what I'm saying? Like that's how I would do it. The road is long for things, but you get there by starting and by keeping yourself inspired and by learning what you can. And eventually it pays off. I'm not interested in sort of get rich quick schemes. I don't believe in them. I think that they're fundamentally doomed to failure and unethical, and just a scam usually. Of course, when I say this, there's going to be somebody that pops out of the woodwork and says, well, I did a get rich quick scheme and I made like $1 billion, right? But no, generally, I don't agree with that. So anything worth doing, it's a little bit of a journey. But the thing is, you don't have to wait till the very end to like get a result. You get little wins along the way, and they give you hope. They give you inspiration that life has more than just my day job in it, right? It's not just my family and my job until I die. It's my family and, my job for now, but I could do the thing that I really want to do, and I could take my financial future in my own hands, and I could take my creative future in my own hands, and I have this other option. I can always go back and get another job if I want to go back to that, but I have this other option where I think for most people, the big thing is that you are making money directly. You're not going through an employer, and that is tremendously empowering. That's how I felt when I first did this, like years ago. The idea that like, you're a slave to a company, or you're a slave to like a person, like your boss. That's how it felt. I felt that I was a slave to my boss. I've had many bosses. I usually did not get along with them. Mainly because the people that hired me, they were great, but then they left shortly after I started the job. And then I inherited this new person, this new boss, and they were usually a piece of work. And so it's like, you think you're jumping into a good situation with a person with a boss that believes in you, and they chose you and they hired you, so it's going to go well. But no, you get a boss that inherited you. They probably would not have hired you because they don't get along with you. They don't see the value in you, and that's who you're stuck with. So when I first started making money on my own directly, it was like, wow, this is so empowering. I could be free of having to work the daily grind for this company and this boss and these coworkers. I'm not condemned to spend eternity in hell with them. There's a bright future, the light at the end of the tunnel, whatever you want to call it. So that feels really good. And then if you can ramp that up, don't jump blind. Don't take any big financial risks. Just do that on the side. If it's really, really hard, that can be a sign that it's not worth persisting. If you do something and it's relatively easy and it starts making money, it's like, that's something you definitely want to pursue. So anyway, where are we here? Rob says, thanks a lot. You were right. I do work in a large corporation. I have an MBA. I'm familiar with the entire process of marketing. Well, good. Now you need to add some practical experience to that. Okay. Knowing the theory is great. It gives you a real advantage, knowing the theory. Okay. But now you've got to develop some experience in whatever field specifically that you're interested in. Okay. Sometimes I feel I'm too old to start. You're never too old to start. Hey, look, I'm like an old guy, and I got on YouTube. YouTube is mainly like people in their 20s, right? Yes, that was my whole master plan. Wait till I'm middle-aged, gain like 150 pounds, and then put yourself out in public. That's the secret to success. So, hey, if I can do this, you can certainly start a business. People start business all the time. Usually, I think people are fooled by, they've seen the 15,000 movies they've made about Steve Jobs, and they've got a distorted view of what entrepreneurship is. They think that it's all young guys in Silicon Valley that had, VC money thrown at them, that all went to Stanford and founded internet companies. They all think that. It's like, no, that's not what entrepreneurship is. That's a tiny little corner of the world of entrepreneurship. That's not what entrepreneurship is. The, like on your street, if you have someone who's got a pickup truck in their driveway that has a drywall company, Entrepreneurship is like someone who just like buys a mom and pop restaurant or, coffee house or something on the corner, right? That's what entrepreneurship is, like a small business owner. Those people are not in their 20s. Okay. Those people are all middle-aged. And yes, that means they usually have families, And even like high net worth individuals, like doctors and stuff that, they act, sometimes some doctors and things, rich doctors or rich lawyers will act like angel investors, and they'll invest in entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs. A lot of times that's really not a slam dunk success, because what the hell does a doctor know about business? Usually not very much. The problem is they're an expert in one area, so they think they know it all in every area, and then they rush in and make tremendous financial mistakes investing in stupid ideas. So, don't worry about being a little older. Most people are older when they do this stuff. A lot more people are older that do this stuff than you would think from pop culture. So you're not too old to start. When you're 95, we can have that conversation, whether you're too old to start. Rob says, I am also an engineer, so I overthink sometimes. That's fine. I have a degree in engineering, so I understand what it's like. But the thing is, you got to learn about interacting with people. Once you learn a couple of tricks that you can just do, and it shows you how easy this stuff actually is, you'll hopefully shed some of your fear of it if you have fear of it. Engineers deal with numbers and things. They don't deal with people. They deal with technicalities. And a lot of engineers that I've worked with that had to deal with me or other people, I find that they're really bad at it. When I was in university taking engineering, I thought like, look at all these idiots that are taking other things like arts and stuff. What good is that? Well, it turns out that the thing about those other areas, non-technical areas, is that some of them you really learn about people and you interact with people, and holy crap, is that ever a useful life skill, as it turns out. So knowing about the technicality is great, and you can feel superior because you're super sharp and you're very bright. But learning about dealing with people and being able to interact with people is a huge skill. And most introverts and technical people, it's not that we can't do it, it's that we devalue it. To us, it doesn't seem important. So we don't focus on it. And that's the big mistake. Anyway, I'm past my time limit, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm sorry I have to take off. But there are 18 of you guys here. Thank you for being here today. This is quite a long episode of Side Hustle Ideas. Hopefully this was useful. I will be back certainly next week, but maybe later this week. We'll see how it goes with another episode of Side Hustle Ideas. Thanks very much, and take care.